Alright guys, so let's get through the rigmarole first before we get into the podcast. Remember guys, this podcast posts every single Saturday. We go through all the NFL news you need to know about. And there's a lot of interesting stuff here. Obviously it's the off season, so these podcasts aren't going to be super long because there is not a lot of stuff to talk about. But there is an interesting story going around about Zach Orr, and a lot of NFL teams are bidding for his services. Obviously, the kid is super talented. He suffers from a congenital spinal condition where he's medically not. He just cannot play football, or it would be life-threatening. So he's come out of retirement, and he's super talented. He's only 25 years old. Before he retired, he led the Ravens in tackles, so he's super talented linebacker. He's coming back, and a lot of teams want his services, obviously, but you don't want to be the NFL team to sign a kid who could possibly, who is not medically cleared to play football, who could possibly die. So there's a lot of interesting stuff here. The Colts have reached out to Zach Orr, and this is an article about it and a bunch of different NFL teams bidding for his services. And you guys can read the entire article on Pro Football Rumors, but the article is by Sam Robinson. We're only going to read a little piece of it here. You don't want to take another person's work. All right, so the article reads: the second team to host recently unretired linebacker Zach Orr, which the other team was the New York Jets. The Colts might not be much closer to making a contract offer than they were before. Orr arrived in Indianapolis on Friday. The visit, sandwiched in between Lions and Jets summits, was more of an informational gathering exercise. Stephen Holder of the Indianapolis Star reports the Colts, Holder reports, wanted to gauge Orr's readiness after the recently discovered congenital spinal condition forced him to retire earlier this year. So there you go. It's an interesting. I don't know if you're an NFL team, do you want to take that risk, because he is a super talented player. He's obviously only the age of 25. And if you're a team like the Colts, who just had a really good draft, you got Malik Hooker, which was an absolute steal. You're rebuilding that defense. Robert Mathis just retired. It's the start of a new era for that Indianapolis Colts team. You're really trying to build around Andrew Luck, and that really does start with the defense. And they did an absolutely, they did a great job in the draft of doing that. Sorry, I'm burping so much. But they did a great job. They got Malik Hooker, an absolute steal. And you want to add more young talent to your football team. And he could do that. But do you risk it's kind of the same thing with Chris Bosh in the NBA, who he has that heart condition. Do you risk him literally dying on the football field for his services? I don't think you do. And it's unfortunate because he is a super talented player, and he just can't get on the football field. It is upsetting, especially people don't take into account you work your entire life to be an NFL, that's your dream, and then you finally get there, and it's something like that that keeps you from getting on the football field, which is really, really unfortunate. This next piece of news is Ravens tight end. We'll go into it a little bit here, but Ravens tight end Darren Walker is going to be suspended at least 1 year. We're going to read a little bit of the article here. This is from Pro Football Rumors. It's by Dallas Robinson. Ravens tight end Darren Walker has been suspended for at least 1 year for violating the NFL's substance abuse policy, Baltimore announced today. So there you go. Walker, the Ravens have a weird track record with players getting suspended for PEDs, which is really interesting. They have probably the biggest record in the league. This next news story is the Eagles waive wide receiver Dorell Green Beckham. This is really, him coming out of Missouri. Dorell Green Beckham, an absolute beast. Obviously, the Eagles make the trade with the Tennessee Titans. I thought it was a stupid move. I remember reporting on this, and I'm like, this is dumb. Dorell Green Beckham coming out of Mizzou. People were comparing him to Randy Moss. He had that. All he had to do, and I bring this up a lot on my channel, there are so many prospects coming out of the draft that are so talented that you rarely see have that rare size and speed combination, that are just athletic freaks like a LeBron James. But people forget you have to bring that other side to football as well. You cannot just rely on your athleticism. You have to know how to play the game of football. You have to be a technician. You have to do all those other things, because the people you're going up against do those things. they practice every week, they grind every week. They're going to outdo you in that department, and they're going to win every single time. So you have to collide those two worlds of being a great athlete and then being a great football player. And some people just can't do that. And it sucks to see Darrell Green Beckham. It's going to be interesting to see if he can find a second life with anybody, because he coming out of college, super talented guy. Super talented guy, and it looked like him and Marcus Mariota were gonna have a really good 1-2 punch together. It didn't end up working out. He's like, coming out of the college. His knock on him was he's such a raw prospect. He's gonna take a while to develop. And NFL teams are just not. They're not as patient as they used to be. Maybe in a different era, somebody would give him time, but nobody's really given him the time, and he really just has never put those two worlds together. And he's just, like I said, from a technical standpoint, just really poor as a football player. Not a great route runner at all. But again, maybe he finds a second life somewhere else, because he still has that talent that 90% of the players in the NFL just don't have. And it's really interesting to see if anybody's going to pick him up. It's interesting. Really interesting. All right, let's see here. We got something else here. This next news story is concerning Aaron Donald, and he's going to be, if you're a Rams fan, you've gotten a lot of bad news lately. He's going to hold out in training camp, I believe, for a new contract, which is we've seen that a lot with a lot of different players this offseason. We've seen it with Odell Beckham. Now we're seeing it with Aaron Donald. Obviously, my Miami Dolphins are kind of dealing with a similar situation, except our player isn't going to hold out in Jarvis Landry. It's always a weird situation when this happens to your football team, because, obviously, I don't know. It's always weird. As a fan, you're like, why isn't this getting done faster? Because you don't want to lose a player like Aaron Donald. If you lose a player like Aaron Donald, that's a once-in-a-generation type of a player. You're never going to see anybody like him ever again. The man is literally changing the way. Like, he's such a special talent. So the Rams should pay him all the money he wants to. And I hate when fans get upset at players because they are holding out. Well, of course they're going to hold out. If you were Aaron Donald, you would too. You want to be reassured of where you're going to be for the next how many ever years. You want that money. You want that money as well. But it's interesting, because if the Rams mishandle the situation, because Aaron Donald, his personality, not really known, he's a hothead. He's got a reputation down there in LA. So it's going to be interesting to see if his new head coach can handle that kind of personality, or they just kind of cut ties with him. It's going to be interesting to see how they handle the situation. Thomas Davis is in the news. This is an article by Zach Link's Pro Football Room. We're just going to read a little piece of it. But he's also wants a contract extension. This article reads, Panthers linebacker Thomas Davis is scheduled to enter his contract year, but he would like to be he would like to stay for a bit. The 40-year-old says that he's hoping for a contract extension. Thomas Davis, another guy who, when he's healthy, is a Hall of Fame caliber talent. He's another guy that if he didn't have so many ACL injuries and so many injuries plaguing his career, he would have been one of the greatest linebackers to ever live. I truly do believe that. He is an outstanding player. And again, another case of somebody who just couldn't stay on the football field. But again, 34. He's only 34. The rumor is that Shaq Thompson's going to take a little bit more time from him. So it's going to be interesting to see how they split time, because we went through that. If you're a Dolphins, we went through that with Cameron Wake. So it's going to be interesting to see how they handle that. This next new piece of news is Khalil Mack. No deal for Khalil Mack this year. So this article is by Connor Brine. If you guys want to read it on Pro Football Rumors, it reads, it appeared likely that the Raiders could extend each of Derek Carr, Gabe Jackson, and Khalil Mack this summer, but that won't be the case. After handling new details to Carr and Jackson, the Raiders won't have the cap room to lock up Mack until next offseason. So, obviously, I don't think Khalil Mack's going to go anywhere. His top 100 video, it's a nice video to it really shows what Khalil Mack did to turn that franchise around. He's a great leader. He's a Ray Lewis-like. if you've ever seen him mic'd up or anything like that in the huddle, really getting his guys going. So he's a leader. He's a great player. He's one of those guys that you just can't let go because he just transformed. He transformed one of the worst teams in football into one of the best teams in football. And that doesn't. Reggie McKenzie, by the way, just go off topic a little bit. What a beast of a GM he has been the last, I'll say, 3 or 4 seasons, right? What he's done to not only get his franchise quarterback in the second round, get Khalil Mack in the first round, then in free agency build an offensive line around his franchise quarterback, getting Donald Penn, getting Kelechi Osemele, getting Rodney Hudson, extending Gabe Jackson. That is a tremendous job by Reggie McKenzie of just literally over a 3-year period, 3 or 4 year period, changing the franchise of the Oakland Raiders. And I think he should probably get as much credit as anybody because that is amazing. Do you know how many? You can only name a few GMs that have ever been able to do that in NFL history, and he is one of them. And that is just a tremendous job by Reggie Jackson, Reggie McKenzie, Reggie Jackson. Let's see here. What else do we got? This is a great news story too. Bills Jonathan Williams, Carlos Williams is going to be suspended for 1 year. Now, if you guys aren't familiar with who Carlos Williams is, Carlos Williams was a beast his rookie year. I think he's only 24 now. I can't remember how old he is. We're gonna read a little bit of the article. But Carlos Williams. If you're a Dolphins fan and you don't remember who Carlos Williams is, he tore us up his rookie year. I think he had 7 touchdowns his rookie season. The man looked like, I was really worried for a minute there. I was like, we're going to really have to deal with this guy for the rest of his career for 2 times a year. It's going to be tough. Especially with Rex Ryan and the way they ran that offense with Tyrod Taylor. If he stuck around to see some of that with Shady and Carlos in the backfield, it would have been dangerous. But obviously he couldn't stay on the football field. This is by Dallas Robinson on Pro Football Rumors. It reads, free agent running back Carlos Williams has been suspended for at least 1 year, a source tells Field Gates of ESPN.com. Williams had been handed a 10-game ban last November after violating the league's substance abuse policy. So this latest suspension is likely the next step in an ongoing punishment process. The 24-year-old signed a reserve futures contract with the Steelers this offseason, but had been waived in May. With a long-term penalty hanging over his head, it's going to be difficult for Williams to land another job at any point in the near future. So that's sad, because Carlos Williams, again, a beast when he was playing. It's unfortunate, and I wish, in a perfect world, it obviously is going to be suspended for 1 year, but when you see somebody like that be on the free agent market, if he can just stay on the football field, he just adds so much to any kind of football team. If you're the Packers and you've been looking for a franchise back for a very, very long time, hopefully they found that in Ty Montgomery. They did a great job in their draft of hoping to find that. They finally cut ties with Eddie Lacy. But if you see somebody like Carlos Williams, I don't care if he's suspended or not, I want to make sure that guy, if he ever does come back, he's on my football team, because he was a really, 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 really good football player. And this next piece of news is really unfortunate if you're a Saints fan. The whole Nick Fairley situation, how he's not going to play in this upcoming season, that's a huge hit for them. Not only is he's going to be gone, and they're not disparaging your team if you're a Saints fan. You have a really talented offense, and your defense is on the up and come. Obviously you get Marshawn Lattimore in the draft, which was an absolute steal. Your defense is obviously getting better. You still have Von Bell on that defense. So they're adding young talent to their defense, but that is a huge hit to that defense. That really is probably, other than the Cleveland Browns, the worst defense in the NFL for the last 3 or 4 years now. So that's a huge hit for them. And not only that, but they lose Terron Armstead for the first 6 months of the season. So the Saints, they looked like they could go for the crown in the NFC South, and that is not looking as likely as it once was before, or at least get close to the crown. Maybe not take it from the Falcons or Panthers, who the Buccaneers. The Buccaneers got a whole lot better as well with the addition of Deshaun Jackson, who is, if he can stay on the football field, one of the better deep threats in NFL history. And so it's interesting because they were looking like, again, they were definitely going to be better than they were last year. I think they went 7-9. And a lot of those games were close and shootouts. If they could just find a way to, and Nick Fairley, the loss of Nick Fairley, that's a huge hit. If they can find a way to just, I don't know how you're going to replace him. I don't know how, but it's unfortunate is all I'm saying if you're a Saints fan. I just hate when that happens. This next news story is Tremaine Johnson. It's referring to Tremaine Johnson and his whole situation that has been a debacle. It's clear, I don't know what the hell. Just get out of there. I'm sick and tired of hearing about Tremaine Johnson. I cannot wait till he's off this team so I don't have to hear about it anymore. The article is by Zach Links. You can find it on Pro Football Rumors. Last week we heard that the odds of an extension of the Rams' Tremaine Johnson are extremely slim. Now Adam Schefter of ESPN.com hears on Twitter that there is nothing close between the two parties, and flatly says that no long-term deal will get done. Tremaine Johnson clearly does not want to be a Ram, and the Rams clearly do not want Tremaine Johnson. It surprised the heck out of me that they even franchise tagged him last season. First of all, Tremaine Johnson is one of the best corners in the league. I've said this many times. He is one of the best man corners in the league. He's one of the rare guys you can just leave on an island and not have to put any help over the top or in the middle of the football field. It's a pretty. I don't know if you're the Rams. Like, do you understand what you would lose if you lose him? You would lose one of the number one corner who 2 seasons ago, technically it almost would be 3 seasons ago, grabbed 8 interceptions, or I think it was 7 or 8, which is insane. And he can get loose with it when he picks it off. So, interesting story. I can't wait till he's gone. When he's on that field, a lot of teams would love to have Tremaine Johnson on their football team, and it just boggles my mind. And the same thing with Kirk Cousins. Like, make your mind up. Like, I'm sick and tired of, like, if you franchise tag him, you own, like, $23 million or something like that, which that is close to the highest paid player of all time on a year average, and the highest paid quarterback of all time, which is Derek Carr now, who's getting $25 million annually, and you're paying Kirk Cousins $23. So why not just give him a long-term deal? It just doesn't make any sense. Unless they're like, oh, we're waiting for, which this upcoming draft is really stacked with quarterbacks. I mean, Sam Darnold, who just had he just broke all kinds of records today. He looks like he's going to be the next, number one overall pick, next prodigy quarterback. Then you have Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen and Baker Mayfield. There's a couple really talented guys coming out of the draft next season. So maybe that's what they're waiting for. But I don't know. It's like, man, just make up your mind, build your team, focus on building your team, and not have this huge question mark in the air. Anytime that happens with any NFL team, I'm like, it's like, are you even focused on building your team? This next piece of news is concerning the New England Patriots. And the whole Jimmy Garoppolo situation is really interesting because obviously there was a lot of trade rumors there that he was going to be traded during the draft or before the draft. There's a lot of rumors that the Cleveland Browns wanted him. The Houston Texans were involved at one point. The 49ers were really heavily involved at one point. And then the Patriots are really reluctant. They don't want to get rid of Jimmy Garoppolo. I think that's the reason. They put out an offer that would be. The trade was rumored that you're basically mortgaging your future to get somebody like him. They clearly don't want to get rid of the kid, so it makes you, I don't know, it just makes you wonder how much longer Brady's gonna play. And then they acknowledge that he is the future, Jimmy Garoppolo. This next piece of news is referring to the excuse me. My brain stopped for 2 seconds. This next piece of news is concerning the Pittsburgh Steelers. It says no deal. The article is no deal in sight for Le'Veon Bell. So let's get into this. Another great player who needs a contract extension. This article is by Zach Links on Pro Football Rumors. It reads, there is no deal in sight right now for the Steelers and Le'Veon Bell. Adam Schefter of ESPN.com tweets, both sides remain motivated to get an extension done, but it could go either way in Schefter's estimation. So there you go. Another guy who, in my opinion, is the second best running back in the NFL. I think, in my opinion, the best is David Johnson. I mean, the man had 2,000 yards from scrimmage last season, which is insane to me. He averaged 100 yards a game, except one game which he did not finish. So yeah, I think David Johnson is that guy. Close second is Le'Veon Bell. Third for me, probably Zeke Elliott. And fourth, that's a hard one. Fourth's hard, but I'm a homer and I'm biased, I guess. So I would say J.J. So let's move on from that. Interesting. I mean, there's a bunch of really good football players not getting deals done. And I hate the drama that surrounds this kind of stuff. It's like they're trying to do first of all achieve their dream in getting a max deal and stuff like that. It just doesn't make any sense to me why people would even be upset about it. I understand from a fan's perspective, but if you're not a fan, then you just shush your mouth about it. All right, so see if there's any other juicy news here. Some of this other stuff. Let's go through this. This is an interesting little list here done by Pro Football Rumors. It's the top free agents left on the market. So for edge defenders, Dwight Freeney, Mario Williams, Paul Kruger, Eric Walden, and Trent Cole. If your team's in the market for old out of their prime players, Dwight Freeney I still think can add something to a football team, especially. I think he can still rush the passer. And for interior defensive line, if you're a Saints fan, I guess this is something to keep your eye on. Dan Williams, Jared Odrick, Arthur Jones, Vance Walker, and Cedric Marks. I think Jared Odrick still has a lot of football left in him. Very versatile defensive lineman, and really athletic for his position. Linebacker, Perry Riley, DeAndre Levy, Darryl Smith, D'Quella Jackson, and Ray Malaluga. Other than DeAndre Levy and Perry Riley, all 3, 4, and 5, which is Darryl Smith, D'Quella Jackson, and Ray Malaluga, you don't want those guys on your team unless they're like semi-coaches at this point. They are so far from their prime. Cornerback, the top cornerbacks left, which this is a great list. Darrelle Revis, Brandon Flowers, Altron Werner, Sam Shields, and Leon Hall. If Sam Shields, another guy who was on his way to being one of the best DBs in Packers history, for God's sakes, but he suffers from concussion issues, like severe concussion issues. Body wasn't built to play football. It's upsetting. Let's see here. What else we got? Safety, Corey Graham, Jerry's Bird, Marcus Gilchrist, Rashad Johnson, and Steven Tyrell. So there you go. Those are your top free agents that are left. So I think that's all the news, guys. I think that is all the news. There was an interesting article that I thought we would go through before we get out of here, and it's the top 100s. Top 100 all team. So it's every team, the all pro team basically for every player that made the top 100. New England Patriots. Running back we got Zeke Elliott. Backup running back we got Le'Veon Bell. Receiver we got Julio Antonio. Tight end we got Gronk. At tackle we have Tyron Smith. At guard we have Marshall Yonda. Let's see here. Let's keep going. At center we have Travis Frederick. Let's keep going. Travis Frederick. At guard Zach Martin. At tackle Joe Thomas. At defensive end Khalil Mack. I pretty much agree with this. Defensive tackle Aaron Donald. Defensive end J.J. Watt. What's the other defensive end? Khalil Mack is the other one. Linebacker Von Miller. We got a Panther loading in. Linebacker, I think middle linebacker Luke Kuechly. Vic Beasley. Cornerback Pat P. Other cornerback Richard Sherman. Safety Eric Berry, and the other safety with him Landon Collins. That's one heck of a team, and it's hard to argue that. It's hard to argue at the top 100. The top 100 is very interesting because there's a conspiracy. I saw that conspiracy that players don't actually vote on it. Because I don't know, it just sometimes with some of these, it doesn't make any sense to me. But if you the whole Matt Ryan getting number 10, but everybody in that video, it was a universal agreement that he didn't even deserve to be that high, which is interesting. I don't know. It's interesting. Let me know if you guys think the top 100 is legit. I don't think it's legit. I think there's a little tomfoolery going on there. Just let me know. I want you guys' thoughts on it. I'm sure David's got a whole like paragraph of how some kind of, I don't know, something happened. I'm sure David knows. We're gonna have to get the inside scoop from him. So I am Skax83, and I will see you guys in the next one.